So you have to imagine that there was absolutely nothing here, nothing green. There was grey cement and gravel covering the entire surface around the house. And Kim and I had the lovely task to imagine a curving brick path and bushes, a new tree. We also, of course, very much like that we have the different little sheds all around that we built little by little. The first one was the library shed because we had too many books. They didn't have place in the house. So out they went into their little own place where we had our library, where we also saw clients and where our daughter stayed when she came to visit from Peru. Our friends, of course, watching the house grow in the outskirts, namely these sheds and cottages and little buildings, they created a nickname for our place, and it was the Shedley Manor. We have a pantry shed. We called it also the Mother. Oh, do you have another bottle of wine? No, it's in the Mother. Go over and get it from the Mother. And then there was the tool shed, of course, very important for garden work. There was next in line came a utilities shed where the wardrobe from summer went in winter, and in winter the wardrobe for summer, and tools that you need in the house and cleaning supplies, all of that farmed out. Wonderful. And then finally and lastly, we created another shed out there toward the wetlands, and that is the archive. And in the archive, Kim and I had all our documents from making so many books, publishing, writing, lots of photography and all these things that again need a very good and orderly place if you want to find them again one day. So if you would ask Kim, every good house would need a reading nook. Here in this house, we discovered that there was a wardrobe with a quite unsightly brown wooden door. And we said, off with it. This is the reading nook. And when Kim wanted to disappear, she would sit here with her book, and I would run through the house and say, "Where are you, Kim? Kim, where are you?" And I would just not see her in this little nook. She would have disappeared. And I think this is a wonderful thing, that in a house where you live together, you can absolutely be absent. You can disappear. So the adventure of this house was discovering a very, very simple, basic house that looked and seemed solid, but devoid almost completely of amenities. Like this room didn't have a window out to the view. It had very, very primitive windows to this side of the garden. It had a smallish door to the deck. And we had to kind of reimagine the entire house. Every room basically was stripped to the wood by us and rebuilt. We heightened all the ceilings and eliminated some walls that were not necessary and put windows everywhere. And not just windows, but also window seats. Playing with this house and making it really comfortable for us. Also, of course, extended into our playroom. You know, we wanted to have our offices there, and we had learned in the course of our long relationship of 35 years we were together, that we could write in the same room together. So the house became more and more like a little universe for us, where we lived inside out. The remarkable thing about Point Reyes is that the weather is always good. In the 20 years that we came visiting and spending weekends and some vacations, we noticed that the fog was all around us, but not in Point Reyes. You can count on 300 days in a year of sun in Point Reyes, but not in Bolinas, not in Stinson Beach, not in Inverness, nowhere else. It is precisely the fog's movement through the sky that one arm of fog departs and goes over the hills. The other arm goes into the other hills over to Petaluma in that direction, and Point Reyes. Point Reyes is in the sun. And then in a few steps you are, of course, in the village. You have right next to you the bakeries, fantastic bakeries of this little town. You have the pharmacy. You have an intense cultural life and an intense private life at the same time. I really like this about Point Reyes, that there is so much happening. If you are hungry for that, you have plenty to experience and plenty of adventures. And if you are very much a recluse, which Kim and I can also be, you are sheltered and far, far away. Built-in bookshelves inside the house that helped us enormously place the many, many books that we had collected in both our lives. You can see wherever you walk through the house, wherever there is a place empty, it has a book or two. It is always warm through the passive solar wall that goes through the hallway and catches the sunlight all through the day and warms the rest of the house so that you hardly need heat. However, when it's hot outside, the house is cool, because then the sun is high up and doesn't come really in too much, and the house is lovely and perfect in its temperature. So that was a great discovery for us, that a house could be perfectly placed in the sky directions and in the geometry of a place and make you warm and cool just when you need it. Sweetie pies. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I brought something interesting from Europe, and that is the knowledge that if you put up a glass wall around your deck, you can live outside all year long, and no matter how much wind comes from the ocean. And that's what we did, of course, immediately, because Point Reyes has a lot of wind. There's no doubt about it. This area by the sea needs, of course, enormous wind protection. Always at night, in this beautiful, clean, starlit, and sometimes fog, mysterious fogs coming out of the hills. It's the most gorgeous experience with the champagne air, this beautiful scent from the bushes around it, and the chorus of frogs in the spring until late summer. The owls you hear hooting, the coyotes, very often you hear them in their extraordinary yowling and chanting and barking. It's a chorus of the night that is fantastic, and also, of course, the Canadian geese. All the birds flying around. It gives a kind of nature spectacle through these big windows that we have everywhere, inside and out. that is such a pleasure to watch with binos and without, and enjoy the space that we have in so many ways that makes life absolutely a pleasure from early morning to night. Garden where there was nothing before, nothing but brambles, absolutely not a single tree in this entire garden space. I brought, of course, the idea of European gardens in southern France, you know, lavenders, please, and rosemary, and especially scented leaves, where the air, which we love this air. I mean, the air is so special, it's so fresh and so clean. It's the best air all around in the San Francisco Bay Area. And with these aromatic bushes, especially around the hot tub, we called it the champagne air. That out here you breathe champagne air. Used the land around our house that was unused and only covered with brambles and nothing else, that we could plant some fruit trees and therefore have our own harvest in the fall. So we planted 2 big cherries, a Fuji apple tree, an Anjou pear, and an Asian pear and a walnut tree, because I love walnuts particularly. And these little trees, which we kept small, have an incredible harvest every fall. It's so much that we give tons away to our neighbors, and we put the apples and the pears in storage and then have them until Easter. So it's an incredible orchard that doesn't need watering or any kind of care. You just fertilize the trees and there they go. Fabulous. Tomales Bay. And blows right into here with a great freshness from the ocean, and the inland plants and woods and trees, the wilderness. And on top of that, we planted these scented bushes like rosemary and lavender and rock roses with a particular scent to the leaves around the hot tub, particularly, so that it's a beautiful, spicy, scented air. We call it the champagne air. Everything is fenced in. We put the fences for the deer, but now they serve also for the dogs. They can't get out. It's wonderful for them. They can run out, play wildly, and not destroy anything, because there's so much free space that they can run around, and so practical in many ways. It's so easy to live here in that space. With your, for kids it would also be fantastic, I think. For little kids, they would have a great time in a space like that where they can immediately and safely be outside.